Okay, welcome. I'm glad so many of you could make it, despite the weather. My name is Jani Sarisivo, and I am a coach. I'm this guy right here, and yeah, I work with coaching, and I work with customized learning. I believe that's the only way we can get to one of the biggest problems we're suffering today, the work-life balance situation, where people are stressing themselves to death, and usually what we're doing is not really helping the cause. So I believe that the only way to be helpful in the most precise way is to be one-on-one and actually teach the people to take theory and make it into practice that works for them. Usually we are taught what we need to know. I help people learn how to use the information. So yeah, I'm this guy, but I'm also that guy. That's me right there with my beautiful kids and my crazy wife. Oh, damn it, wrong. Freudian slip. My crazy kids, my beautiful wife. That's the way it's supposed to be, yeah. So I don't know if everybody knows, but this group was originally a group started by another bald guy, not me. And apparently he left, and then the group was wide open for somebody to take over, and I decided, okay. I was curious, but I was also skeptical, because I'd been to a couple of meetups before, and I hadn't really understood what they were all about. I was like, what? I go there, I get a beer, I get a Corv, I get some business cards, and then I walk home, and I don't really know what happened. Do they want me to buy something? Do they want me to? Do I owe somebody something? Will there be a bill? So I didn't really figure out what meetups were all about. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but that's at least the way I felt. So I was a bit skeptical, but then I decided, okay, this is a chance for me to make a meetup group that I can understand and that I will like and that I can provide value through. And so I jumped on board, and here we are. It took a while, but finally we got our first meetup together. And also, I will go through the agenda a little bit. Here we are. We have now gotten to the point where we're going to talk about how I transform my life from stress to chill. That was what I put up on our page. But I also put up that we were going to. I didn't put this part. That is part 1 of 3. I did say it was possibly going to change, which it did. So we're only going to do one part of the 3 today, and after that I'm hoping that we can have a bit of discussion about how we want this group to be. Because at the end of the day, it's for you guys. We can design it the way we want. If you guys prefer to have more of a, workshops or discussion forums or one-on-ones, we can do that how we want. So we will discuss that afterwards and see what we come up with. All right, first some housekeeping stuff. I'm going to let Consuela here help me. I got some questions about the breaking bad habits bit. I could have called it something else. I could have called it breaking your bad environment. I could have called it weeding, for example. Maybe then people thought it was a gardening seminar. That's not what it is. But it's basically looking at what or who is standing in the way for you to be able to do the transformation in your life. Not meaning us to find them and blame them. I'm just saying it's a good way to look around in your environment and see, okay, what is not helping me? Perhaps something is draining you from resources that you need. You can look at it as pebbles, for example. If you were to climb a mountain, which you are about to do if you're going to transform something, you can look at it as, yeah, sure, you can climb the mountain with pebbles in your shoes, absolutely, but it makes more sense to try to get yourself into a position where you can, welcome. Oh, okay, all right. So it makes more sense to remove those pebbles, and basically that's what we're going to talk about today, how to start looking at those things that are forming some sort of instruction to you. Okay? Point number 2 in housekeeping is that you are the customer. I mentioned that. There's not going to be a magic potion. It's not going to be like you walk out of this room and then you say, okay, now I'm transformed. I'm working with my job, with my passion. I'm now not smoking ever again. I'm going to the gym. I'm fantastic. Doesn't work that way. I think we all know that. But this group is for you, and it's basically a support for you on your journey, because it's hard to make change on your own. It's easier, it's less hard, I should say, if you have people around you you can turn to for support when the going gets tough, because it will. The last one is a disclaimer I put here. the ideas that are presented here today are just, they're my ideas. They're a collection of my ideas that I mean, we're all a summary of our stories, basically, and these are the ideas that I've formed my life around, and these are the ones that I've used to transform myself. I'll show you, talked about later, how that went. But when it comes to the source, something that I've done my whole life is to not so much look at the source, just that I decide what is of value to me. I've learned life-altering stuff from Eminem's 8 Mile video, or the movie. And I've learned not at all important stuff from super smart professors at university. So it's where you pick up and what makes sense to you. And this is what I like about this quote: the real test of knowledge is not truth, but utility. So anything you can use, even if it's not true, if it makes sense to you and makes you take a step in the right direction, go for it. So these are my ideas, and if they work for you, that's great. If not, we can all share some other stories and learn from each other. My current life situation is the result of my habits. I put this on our Meetup group page because I think it's a very important point. It talks about ownership, and transformation is very hard if you don't own this statement. If you keep looking at things and saying, yeah, I would if it wasn't for this, or yeah, if only if it wasn't like that, or then you will forever be giving the power to change of your life to somebody else. If you own that, okay, yep, if you manage to look at your situation and say, okay, I am where I am today, and the common denominator between all my problems is me, right? Yeah, that can be harsh at first, but it's also empowering, because that means that you can be part of influencing all those problems. So you can change if you realize that you have a finger in all these problems that you can do something about. So it's very important. There's two different mindsets. Basically, yeah, life is what happens to me, or life is what I make happen. And if you're wanting to transform, I would suggest that this second one is the one to choose. Ready for transformation, I've written here. How do you know if you're ready? Well, let's start with transformation. What does transformation mean? You guys want to chime in? Anybody have any suggestion of what transformation is?
Change.
You want to speak in the microphone so the whole world can hear you?
Change.
Change, okay, yeah. Any type of change?
Change for the better.
Okay. Anyone else?
Maybe intentional change? Intentional change?
Intentional change? Yeah. Yeah, so it's just nothing that happens to you, but you actually take charge of it. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. If I say that I think there's something permanent about it, would you agree? Would you see what if you go with me on this, I'm saying, like, if you change something, if you transform something, that feels like, if I transform into this, that means I can't go back to what I used to be. A sense of permanence. Would you agree with that? It's like when you save your PowerPoint and then you try to click back. You can't go back because there's nothing to go back to, because now you've now saved where you are. You kind of drawn the line of where now to move forward from. So for me, there's the sense of permanence, which, like, if you look at this butterfly, which is why I like this picture so much, that guy can't go back to this. This one can't go back to that. It's going in one direction, and you change, you set the bar all the time to a new bar. And I think if we're looking at true transformation, not just change. I'm saying a change could be like, okay, I'm changing now, but then I can bounce back after the summer, after I've fit into my swimwear, you know? Like, then, okay, that was good for the summer, but now I'm back to my bad habits. That's not a transformation in my mind. A transformation would be that, okay, I might still not look very good in my bathing suit, but at least I've started changing my eating habits. I've started changing my exercising habits. So this doesn't go very quickly. I think it takes 4 weeks or something for the butterfly, and I think a butterfly, I'm not David Attenborough or anything, but I think they live for like one month to 6 months or something. So that would be like 20-ish years for us. So, you know, I think the patience bit is very important, and there's some other things that I would bring up here now that are important, because change is hard. I think we all know that. I think that's, if we didn't think so, then we wouldn't be here. Commitment. I'll read this. I hate brushing my teeth at night because that signifies that you can't have any more food. And I'm just not ready for that kind of commitment. It speaks a little bit to what we talked about before. Like, he knows there's no way back. And it's like, okay, I'm committed. Okay, how am I going to commit to something if I want to go back? So once you agree that, okay, this change is for life. And it sounds very dramatic maybe to say it's for life. But if you look at things and say, okay, is this something that I'm able to do just until the summer, but not something I want to do for life? Okay, then maybe it's not a transformation I'm looking for. I'm just looking for a little fix right now. But if you're looking for something that that would be maybe not as dramatic right now, but it would shift you, it would move you along this butterfly larvae axis, then we're talking about something that's much more impactful over time. I'll give an example. I just give a banal example here. Perfect yard or cat poop I've written here. I can give you the example. I'd love to have a perfect yard at home. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of commitment that I'm not ready for. I can't spend all that time and energy on my perfect yard. But there's a cat that keeps pooping in our yard. And I was bothered by it until my niece slipped in it, and I was like, okay, this is war. I'm ready. I'm committed for life. I'm committed to do something about this cat poop because that's the limit that I can move to. Not perfect yard, but the limit that I'm really committed to for life is to remove this thing. So I went online, ordered all these sensors, and did my bit. I'm committed, and it works. And there's occasional cat poop, but I'm on it. So that level of commitment, I can go that far, but not further. Another one is like, if another example is I don't know if you've seen Cowspiracy. Have you seen that movie? Yeah, horrible movie. I mean, the movie's good, but it makes you feel bad. So we didn't eat meat for like 15 minutes after that, but we couldn't commit to life. But I did commit to no milk. So yeah, I couldn't go completely be free. And then I was like, I felt bad about it, but okay, what can I commit to? How far back can I step? And okay, now what level? Okay, so the milk bit, okay. So not drinking milk is better if I'm concerned about the whole what the premise of the movie is about. Then my little contribution of not drinking milk is better than I was before. So I've transformed. I don't drink milk anymore, right? So it wasn't a huge change. I didn't go vegan or anything, but I realized I couldn't go vegan, but I could do something. So I took a little baby step. Those are just examples out of my life. Discipline is another one. Check out this guy. You can see how his eyes doesn't see you. He looks at you, but he's looking at the biscuits. Motivation. I think we talked about it before a little bit here in the group, and motivation is a big one. We are often motivated to make a change, and we often rely on motivation to make this change or transformation. But the human brain is designed to save you energy. The human brain is designed to make you not want to do things that require more energy than the other option. So you're completely normal. The brain is working perfectly fine because that's what it's choosing to do. But if we want to change something, we have to kind of override the motivation bit. We have to override the brain's tendency to choose the easy way out, which means that there's habits. And these habits it's also hard to form, but they're easier to outsource the discipline to. And go with me on this one. I'm trying to explain, like, if you, let's say you're going to go out to the gym on Sunday. So I'll go to the gym on Sunday if I feel like it. Okay, then what are the chances that on Sunday you will find 20 different reasons as to why you don't feel like it? Or it's a little snowy outside, or ooh, it's far, it's cold, whatever, right? But if you had put it into your habits, say, okay, and I'm very, very much simplifying this now. It's not so easy to say, I just can put it on my habit. But if you tie it to something that you do, for example, every day. I'm going to tie it to breakfast. Like, put it down on your calendar. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it 10:30 on Sunday morning from 10:30 to 11:30, for example. And then you obviously have to be committed to the whole thing that we talked about. You have to commit it to the process and say, okay, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm not even going to listen to the voice that tells me that I don't want to go on Sunday, right? Because I put it out on my calendar. And one of the subjects of one of the meetups will be talking about habit formation. So it's worthy of a whole lots of conversations. I'm just trying to say that discipline is better outsourced to habits than it is to motivation. Because if you tie it to motivation, motivation is never there when you want it. It's just how it is. Break it down to, I did put break down every day, as then I realized it sounds like you have to break down every day. That's not what I meant. I meant that you have to break it down into little things that we also talked about before that you can do every day. If you have 2 big things that you're wanting to do, then you won't do it. Because the threshold of participating in that thing is too high. So break it down. Just walk around in your sneakers if that's what you want to do for the first 2 weeks. Do that bit, that's fine. But eventually, after, you'll be able to step it up a little bit. I heard someone talking about meditation. Somebody talked about meditation saying, okay, go home and meditate for 10 seconds. Sounds ridiculous. But then the guy said, okay, I'd rather have them meditate for 10 seconds than not meditate for 30 minutes, right? So, and then after doing it for 10 seconds, the following week, you might want to do it for 20 seconds. So the thing is to build up slowly, but since we are so impatient, we don't have the patience to wait for it, usually we are like this guy. Come on, inner peace, I don't have all day, right? And it's the same thing whether it's got to do with mindfulness, it's got to do with exercise. We wait so long, we wait till we're either too out of shape, or we wait till things have gone so far that we need immediate results. We're like, okay, come on, let's go. I feel this bad, now I need to go out and run. And after a week, you're like, what happened? Why isn't there a difference? It's because we underestimate how long it takes to get out of it. We underestimate how long, like if we think about how long it took us to get to that state of depravity, how out of shape we are, how long it took to make that big hole in the couch, right? It took a long time. So how can we expect it to go in 10 minutes or 2 days or a week or something? So we underestimate the length of time it takes to get to where we want to go, right? But again, if we then just manage to think about how the rewards are not immediate, and this is why we're struggling with patience. Also, I'm not saying this is why. This is my take on why, because we don't see the immediate rewards. We're like this guy. Where is it? Come on. Where's karma? I've been nice all morning. Where's this lunchtime? Where's the good stuff coming to me, right? So if we just keep doing the stuff and have the commitment and have the discipline and the patience, we will get to it. It just won't get so quickly. And I think that's what we also mentioned before, that people have a problem committing to, like, because they don't see the immediate rewards. But it takes time to build this up. It will get there. Yeah, we end up being focused on the goal. We end up thinking about, it's important to have goals, obviously, but once you set the goals, it's okay to let the goals go once you have stepped up the process, sort out the process to get there. Just focus on the process and stick to it. The goal might actually change on your journey. But once you start doing the steps you've designed, because it's hard to say, in a year's time, I will feel like doing this. You don't know, because your mind will have grown. And you might have changed the goals because life happens, right? But if you have small routines that you follow and stick to them with your commitment, there's a greater chance of actually succeed. So here, process, not the goal. So I keep repeating it, but it's very important to remember that the success lies in falling in love with this bit, the process, and letting go of the goal. Because if we only look at completing something, then once the goal, let's say they're running the marathon, or if we say, I don't know, climbing a mountain. You climb a mountain. You go there, climb the mountain, and then you're done. And then you put away the stuff you've used to climb the mountain. You're done with it now, right? So then you can just tick off the goal. But have you transformed yourself? Probably not. Maybe something happened during the way, and you realized you love climbing mountains, and you'll start doing something else with mountains. But if we just focus on the goal, and instead of looking at the habits that we can form to make ourselves into better versions of ourselves, then you can actually let the goal go and kind of think, okay, I will get there. And if I don't get there, at least I've changed along the way. Let me know if you guys have any questions, or if you're not following what I'm saying here. Okay, I don't know if you've seen this quote. It's from the Alice in Wonderland book, right? If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. It's when Alice talks to the Cheshire Cat. And she says, where should I go? And he says, well, where do you want to go? I don't know. He said, okay, well, you can take any road then. It doesn't matter where you go. And so this kind of little story segue gets into what my story about how to move from stress to chill. Because I was on any road. I was doing what everybody else was doing. Had a good job. Life worked great. Things was going on. I looked to my left, looked to my right. Everybody was doing the same thing. But we were all on this road to where? And so, let me take you back to 2.5 years ago, when I was in a situation that wasn't, I mean, it sounds horrible. It wasn't that horrible. It was just that it was physically and mentally taxing, but I didn't realize that at the time. I just felt things were spinning and I wasn't really participating in life, so to speak. I would be upset about, I would be upset about people in line in the cafes. I'd stand there behind them and watch them. I think they're like, oh, I get so frustrated, get irritated with them. What are they doing? Come on, move on. What's going on? I'd be in the airplane. I'd be like, what's this person doing in the bathroom? I was like, I stand there agitated about, I can't imagine what's taking so long, even if I didn't have to go that bad. I'd be in cars at red lights. I would be like, I could sit there and yell at the lights. I'd say, what's going on? And at the time, I was like, okay, it's just that the lights are the problem, and the people in the line are the problem, right? I would press the button. I would do the elevator button thing. I'd press the button 50 times. I'd be like, come on. And then I screw it. I'd run up to five flights of stairs, because at least I had control. I was doing it, right? And there was no end to all the stupid stuff I was doing. I was emailing myself tips. I was like, okay, I gotta remember this. So I sent myself an email on the phone, right? Adding to my inbox. I had like 87 different emails, and I would email in bed before I went to bed, because I was like, oh, I'll knock 10 out, it's perfect, and I would wonder why it was hard to fall asleep. I would email in the bathroom. I would talk to friends while I peed. I would. There was no end to the stupid things I was doing. But here's the funny part. I was loving my job. I was loving my colleagues. I was buying into the vision. I was buying into the strategy. I loved my tasks. And all this might have been part of the problem, maybe, because had I not liked my job, I might have pulled the handbrake sooner. But I was loving it. And the second thing that was weird, I don't have social media. No Facebook, no Snapchat, no Instagram, none of that. Twitter. I didn't have it then. And still I was struggling to make ends. So I was like, now when I think about it, like, how is it for people who had all those things and those added pressures, right? So all these things were kind of like snowballing, and I didn't really notice how it was, but it came to a head just before Christmas. I had like 3 nightmare weeks before Christmas. This was 2.5 years ago, and I think the average meeting time, I calculated it, was average meeting time per day was 6.5 hours sitting in meetings, and I came to work at 9, I left at 4. So you do the math. It was ridiculous, right? And so I could get nothing done. I was stressed on the bus home. I was stressed all the time. I was thinking about, but I was still being nice because I loved my life. Do you understand? So I was nice outward and everything was working, but inside I was kind of getting eaten up because I was just like, I probably didn't take a deep breath for like 6 months, So I realized things had to change. And so when Christmas came, I took some extra days off. And I said, okay, now I need to do something with my life. I need to look at things, and I need to just sort this thing out. What's the deal? So I have these slides here. I don't know if you'll see them. I was going to draw it on a board, but this is like the reenactment, so to speak, of what I did. I'll walk you through it quickly. It's not the important thing is just to see like the process of what I did. It's not important to see what it is here. Okay, I put down the future self. What is my future self? What does my future self look like? And I did that within different categories like career, family, health, life, finance, house, stuff like this. So I put this down, future self, and then I put current self, and I looked at the gap, and I saw that there's a big difference. But, the biggest difference at that point, when I looked at it, was the work stuff. The work wasn't at all working for me, and that was probably the biggest factor that influenced my life. You can ask questions about this if you're curious, if you don't know, understand what I mean. But future self looked like this, current self looked like this. the gap here, the gap between, this is what I call it gap coaching. The gap between the future self and the current self is what's stressing me out. It won't stress me out if I know how to get there. If I know how to take myself from here to there, if I have the resources, if I have the plan, I have the money, I have all the things that I need to get there, that wouldn't stress me out, because sometimes we have challenges that we're not stressed about, right? Like, and those usually are when we know, okay, I know how to get there, I know I have enough time, I know I have, whatever. So we're not stressed about those things. But stress usually comes from us feeling there's a lack of something. Whether it's like here, resources, it's in Swedish, but a lack of resources, lack of competency, meaning like skills and training and stuff, lack of goals, lack of motivation, lack of control of where you're supposed to go. It's called internal locus of control. If everything's outside of you, and you don't have the autonomy to steer your own way, that's like that causes a sense of frustration and disengagement at work. Or lack of values. Like, we haven't really figured out, like the whole quote from Alice, like, where am I going? I don't really know where I'm going. I'm doing stuff, but I don't know why and where I'm going. So I put all this stuff down, and you can tell I didn't like it here. You see, I wasn't happy there.
So, for example, stress is 9, right?
Oh, this is a makeup example. Because I was in a cafe when I did this, and then this is a work-through example with somebody else when I showed this. I just had to have. There was a little disconnect there. I was going to draw it up today on a little whiteboard, but then I was like, I wasn't sure if we're going to have it or not, so I put this up here. It's just a working example. So these numbers aren't exactly my numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might be confusing.
So the goal was to reach 10, right?
Well, the goal was...
In the future...
The goal is, like, I guess, always to be 10 on everything,
yeah.
But at different times in our lives, different things are important. At this point, it wasn't that important for me to my house. Like, okay, the house is like, okay, that's fine. I'll leave that one. Obviously, I'd like the house to be there, and I'd like to move to 10, but I couldn't commit to it. Hence the cat poop stuff. I couldn't do the art. so I only put myself out there. Okay, I just need to do this bit, right? And so I made the house down prioritized, and then I did the career one, or the work one.
Was it time bound? Your future self? Are you? Have you reached 10 now after 2
Well, yes. In the work situation, yep. And that's what I'm saying. It's chill because I'm in charge of it. Obviously, I work for myself, so it's easier. I like my boss. But yeah, so there are obviously things to aspire to, but then it's like, okay, what to put first? Prioritize list. Right? We can't do everything at the same time. Right? If we try to do everything at the same time, we end up running out. We're back to where I was before, basically. And I put here. I translated these numbers into goals, like all these goals that when I did this math piece between the gap coach from my future self to my current self, it had to amount to some sort of a goal. So I ended up having 20 goals for the coming year, where I could measure and see that I actually made progress toward these goals. So I made goals, part goals, and then action points, and then to-dos. I broke it down into very, very small steps, so I could take baby steps towards it. So you can tell gap equals stress. And again, I'm just using this as an example to show you that the current self, the future self, and then the gap in between is where most of the stress comes. So, obviously these things were stressors to me when I looked at my situation. Again, they're in Swedish. It's not really relevant to see what they are if you don't. But it said this needs solving, and the first step: finding energy drains and plugging leaks. For me, it wasn't so much about trying to be amazing. It was just trying to be somebody who sucked less. And it sounds weird, maybe, but removing negatives and then add positives made more sense to me. And I'm going to tell you why I think this way, because it's like, I used to play golf. I'm going to go back in time a little bit. I used to play golf. I was pretty good at half decent, and I used to compete in it. And then I got my first child in 2006. Couldn't put the same time in, but I still want to compete. But if you don't practice, you don't do very well. And so I figured out the strategy. It's like, okay, I don't know if you guys know golf, but the point is to get a low score. So you can avoid a high score by just not sucking less. Not try to achieve good, not try to get really, really good low scores, just try to avoid trouble. So that was my strategy. So I was like, okay, I have limit. Obviously, if I had more time and to stand on the driving range, I would try to become good. But at this point, it just was about trying to avoid being bad. Does that make sense to you guys? If like the span is like this, I can try to be good and still have the same bad, or I can try to just raise the floor. So this is what I try to do. And then this is what I looked at with my life at work. And I started looking at, okay, where am I leaking time, energy, or money? And then you look at where these holes come from. And then try to be like, how can I plug this? How can I plug the bucket, have my energy levels or time levels or money levels fill up, so that once it's up here, once you basically get your head above the surface, then you can start trying to do good. It's hard to try to look at decorating your yard if your house is on fire. So start with something close and try to fix wherever the problem is that's closest to you. And in my case, this turned out to be traffic rules at work. I can gladly go into what the specifics of those, but basically they were about like we needed to sit down and communicate. We need to sit down and talk about our meetings. We need to what is an efficient meeting? Can I leave after 10 minutes if I'm done with my point, or do I have to sit there the whole meeting? Come in time. How do we communicate? Emailing, for example. Do we always have to click reply all? Do we have to CC everyone? Do we have to, what if I email you at 7 o'clock at night? Do you have to respond to me? Or can you say, no, I'm not going to respond until tomorrow morning? How do we solve conflict at work? How do we show respect at work? How do we how do we give feedback? So all these things were things that we hadn't sorted out. So we were just the guy on the bike in the beginning, the guy with the square wheels. We're just like trying, everybody was trying this in their own way, but we hadn't really sat down and agreed on like, okay, this is how we drive together in our team. Forget that team, forget this team, but we will do it like this. Are we allowed to disturb each other? Like we were working in like a landscape office. Everybody's, so you come and tap each other's shoulders all the time. Like, hey, I just have a question, just have a question, just have a question. You get no work done whatsoever. Research has shown that it takes about 15 to 25 minutes, I think it is, to get your concentration back to the same level that it was before somebody come and disturb you. That means I think 45 minutes a day or something of effective work is done today in the landscape office. It's crazy. So we agreed, okay, once you put the phone, earbuds in your phone and your ears, then you were busy. Nobody could come and disturb you, right? Simple things like that. So these were the traffic rules, and there was like a lot more than those. But I just like, okay, I have to have these put down. Don't book me on meetings in the morning because I feel productive between 9 and 11. Book me on meetings in the afternoon. Don't because if I work between 9 and 11, those 2 hours, I could get a lot of stuff done, right? So sticking to those traffic rules with the discipline and the commitment and the patience did wonders for me. Right? My bucket started filling up, also because I did, I took an inventory of my social circles, like what was draining me and what was recharging me, right? And so some uncomfortable conversations, absolutely. But at the end of the day, I have to look out for myself, right? Some people weren't. So I had to be like, you don't have to say things, you just have to navigate in the best way possible, but it's worth looking at. Stricter routines with the family. Where were we? What fires did we get into in our house? In the mornings, all these things, just like things that we've just been like slaves to before, that we just woke up and things happened to us because we were just on the any road. And now we're actually looking at, okay, well, how can we take charge of this? What is our goal? Our goal is to have a stress-free morning. Okay, how do we get there? Okay, we need to do this. Okay, and put those things in place. Great. Finance, tracking expenses, same thing here. You could look at getting better. You could look at finding another job with more money, where you can just spend less. At this point when I was working the way I was eating too much, I was drinking too much, I was doing all kinds of things too much, spending too much, because I felt like I deserved it because I was working so hard, right? It's such a fallacy. You deceive yourself into thinking that it's okay, right? When in actual fact, you can just cut back on the spending and raise the floor instead of raising the ceiling. And then I had to look at exercising, what blocks my exercising, food ignorance. I wasn't paying attention to food. I was eating everything just left and right. I wasn't, And so what trouble was I getting into here? And usually, obviously, if you are drinking and eating the night before, then you eat unhealthy and drink the next day. It's all like a chain of events. So I just needed to set some good routines in place to get away from this unhealthy lifestyle, basically. So we talked a bit about what you guys' transformation is going to be all about. Some people focus on overhaul, like the whole thing, the whole car needs to, and some people just want to fix a habit. Maybe that's like a part of the car that they want to fix, not the whole bit. But the same approach, I would say, works because you're really not receptive to adding good habits before you're able to fill your own bucket up with whatever it is you're filling it up with, time, money, or energy, right? It doesn't make any sense to try to go back to the gardening and the house example. It doesn't make any sense to try to just look at planting flowers when your house is on fire. Like, figure out what those closest fires are and how you can first tend to the thing that's closest to you, and then once that's in place, then you stand a chance of actually delivering on new, better habits. Because I think all of us today are struggling with these kind of leakages. It's just the way life is today. So that's basically my first step when I started looking at how to start changing my life. There's more, as this says here. Oh, sorry, commitment, discipline, and some patience, to go back to that. With these in mind, I'm trying to make sure that I stick to solid routines, not so much motivation, because I still wanted to eat crap food. I still wanted to drink. If I asked myself what I wanted to do, I would absolutely choose the worst option. But if I put rules down, and I was super hard on myself and not so hard on myself if I screwed up. That's another thing that we tend to do. We tend to be like, oh no, I screwed up, I get off, I quit. But it was just you just failed once, right? You can just get back on it the following day. It's not a big deal. If you're in it for life, and if the important thing is to focus on the process, that's fine. You just keep going. A little hiccup is not a problem. Yeah, so these things did wonders to me. Obviously, when I got my nose over the water surface again, or coming up from the depths, then there were other questions, obviously, that I had to answer, and other things I had to look at. So more related to building good habits. But I thought that's something we could cover in the next meetup, when we get to that point, when you guys have also done your little assignment. I will send this out to you guys, so you don't have to write anything down or anything. So I'll send out an email and also bring in the most important things. But here, remember my rant about. Okay, I'll do this because you guys are just reading it. Remember my rant about how we learn what to do today and not how. Like when you go to these full-day trainings, or you go to 2-day trainings, and you sit there and you listen, it's fantastic stuff, and it's like, this is great. And then you go back to your desk, or your job, or you go back to home, wherever you come, and then you look at it and say, okay, what am I supposed to do now? What's the first thing? How can I take one step in doing what they told me? And that's usually what's missing. Usually the how is missing. Great stuff, but you don't know what to do. And so then that little folder lies there, and you say, okay, I'll look at it tomorrow, and tomorrow, and then tomorrow. And after a week, it's like a little film of dust on it, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you're like, oh, it's not going to happen. Then you put it in a little shelf there on top of the other folders that you had, and there's like 7 of them, and you will never see them again until you change jobs, and you clean out your cubby, and you're like, oh, there they are. Okay, and then give you a little bit of bad conscience again before you leave, and then, So the problem is that we're not taught how to do it. And my intention and my hope with this group is that we'll be able to break that down the hows, so that you can go down and go home and actually know how you're going to move on the information that we've covered. And I'm sure if you guys are interested in if you feel like this step is too big, then we can break it into smaller steps. The problem isn't necessarily you. The problem is that the step might be too high for you. So let's try to see how we can break it down to something that you can stay committed to for like every day. So now I'll show you the screen. Okay, so look at what or who in your environment is making it harder for you to transform whatever it is you're trying to transform. You just need to write it down. You don't need to confront anyone and say, hey, you're doing this to me. And you're like, I'm trying to quit smoking. Every time you pick up a cigarette, you don't have to say that. You can just look at these things that are making it harder for me. How you can do it? Get a piece of paper, if you're old school, or on your phone, where you can write down the whats or the whos or the habits that make things more difficult for you. Okay, and this will require some reflection. I know, shoot me, but okay, so you just need to put your phone away and reflect on this, right? And when you can do it, find a thing that you do every day. When you brush your teeth, for example. I don't know if you're doing other stuff while you brush your teeth, but if you're brushing your teeth, every time just think about, okay, take 30 seconds or 60 seconds where you write down one item and add it to your list. Is this too big of a hurdle, or is it something we can actually do, you think? Yeah? Nodding? Good? And if you miss one day, no big deal. You just pick it up the next day. But the point is to get some sort of an idea of, okay, and this is the weeding bit that I talked about. If you look across your yard now, it's okay. I'd like to plant some flowers there, but if it's full of weeds, a good place to start is start pulling the weeds, right? And the more weeds you pull away, the more your resources can go to, or the yard's resources can go towards what you actually want in the yard, right? Instead of having weeds and then planting flowers next to the weeds, right? It makes more sense to clean them up. And this is why I have it like this too. How I'm saying closing the gap, I divide it into three steps. Weeding is the first bit. You look at the lowest level, raising the floor instead of raising the ceiling, right? What drains you the most? What or who your environment makes it harder for you to get your desired state? We find the weeds and remove them and lessen their impact. So this is step one. This is basically what we covered here today. Once those things are in place, once you figure it out, okay, it might be one thing, might be 10 things, you might be the obstacle, you might be the one standing in your way, you might be the weed that you need to take a look at. Once we get to those things, we can have conversations in our whatever forum we decide to make. And then the next step is to try to prep the environment, prep the soil, and eventually plant better habits. So that was the first part out of 3 today, and I hope that made sense to you. Thank you very much. All right, and let's do some feedback quickly. I like to, or not quickly, you can take your time, but I'm thinking maybe you guys want to do it quickly. Does it make any sense? Do you guys, and if you have something, just say it in the microphone. Does it make sense? Any questions about something, or something you disagree with, or find weird, or?
No, I think it's right what you said, how to do it, because everybody says, you know, the whole world thinks or says, try to be positive, but nobody talks about how one should do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where is the missing link, the execution.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what is good or bad for us.
Exactly.
You know, we know, okay,
Mm-hmm.
drinking every day is bad, but
Mm.
how to stop that habit, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Or working out every day is good, but if you're not able to do it, how you should get into the habit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting how you've broken it down, you know, to in the process.
Mm.
Like for me personally, I'm more instinctive kind of person. I try to go with the flow and then just have the natural process, you know. But I think it's also very important to break it down, you know. Let's say I want to, in a year's time, I want to transform into an athlete, you know, have that kind of, let's say, mental and physical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to break it down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me personally, it's very important, like my goal is right now, I want to be positive all the time. I'm very much aware what I'm thinking, you know, and a lot of times the thoughts go, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
that's how the mind is.
Mm-hmm.
But so for me, okay, how can I be 100% positive, you know, for example.
Or is it okay to start with being 20% positive?
Exactly, you know,
Hmm.
not just go all in, you know,
Hmm.
okay, that's how.
Because then it's like if you go for 100% and you get to 90, you're like, I failed.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't 100. It's when 90% is awesome.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I think
break it down, it's very important.
I think it's also then you know if you're on your way. Then you know if you're making any progress towards what you. Otherwise, if it's just like how I lived on that any road, it's like it was fine. It was working out great because I was doing what everybody else was doing, kind of. But when I stopped and thought about, okay, first of all, I mean, it got to the point when I had the holidays, like I couldn't feel it, but after like 2 weeks on holidays, it felt like my body was like, like unraveling inside. I could feel it physically, how it's just like, you know, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy for any one of us to be that guy on the bike, this guy, you know. But we don't take the time to stop and say, okay, wait a minute, I'll get off the bike now. Let's screw this. Let's take a day when I don't bike, and I'll say, okay, what am I doing here? Like, what is that? Do I even want to be on the bike? Like, what's going on here? And then once you take that discussion with yourself and have a little, like you say, break it down. It's like, I don't need to have 50 goals. I just need to have like one goal. And how do I know that tomorrow I've taken one step towards that? That's all I need to think. I need to think about like, oh crap, I need to be done by Friday by this goal, you know? Where's the mindfulness? Come on, you know? So slowly but surely, and that's we'll get into the habit formation bit later on. But yeah, it's important, I think, to be able to have small measurable goals, you know? Because how do you know you're being positive? Like, will you do one positive thing every day? Will you tell somebody on the bus one positive thing? That could be it for this month. You're a lot better than you were last week. So I have a question. Yeah?
I just wanted to add to setting goals that it's also important to know why do you want to change? Like, what is the reason behind the change? Because it might be something that that comes from you. Like, it might not be the intrinsic motivation.
Right. Yeah.
And if it's not, then also the goals might not be as satisfying, as valuable to you when you reach them. Yes, but I also wanted to add that for me personally, the biggest hardship has been starting, you know, making the first step. So it really resonated with me what you said about the different parts of the process. You know, why or what are the things that drive change. Yes, and for maybe the future meetup, I would like to see like more about the three different parts of it, like the discipline, patience. And the first thing I forgot what it was.
And like I said, it's for you guys. And I'll send out this email where we cover all the stuff, and then we'll see what people want, and like I'll include some topics of discussion, and we can see what if it's. I'm sure that you're not the only one. So
yes, because it would be nice to define them. Like, what do these things actually mean? Because we might have different.
Exactly. Yeah, kind of like what we did with transformation. Like we all have a common definition. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. Yeah, very good point. And I think also when you say about the extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, it's like when you look at. We talked about it before. Who are we doing the change for? Is it for me, or is it for my partner? Is it for my work? Is it for, those all add to whether you succeed or not, right? It's much easier to have something that's close to home that you actually care about than somebody says, okay, well, yeah, do it. Yeah, cool. Okay, but we can stay and talk a little bit afterwards, and if you want to include something more, we can. Meaning in the email that I'll send out. Otherwise, we're done. Thanks so much.